Hey, Mom Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Her Inner Circle. You guys know me. I'm Katie, the founder of Mom Nation and an associate broker with Team EvoAZ at eXp Realty. And I am here with my amazing co-host, as I always am, Miss Darien. Welcome, Darien.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. I actually do have applause on this program. I totally should have been prepared for that.
Fun. Next time.
Yeah. So guys, today we're talking about something that sounds super simple, but can have a huge impact on every relationship in your life. And that's how to be a good friend. We hear this or hear and see this a lot on social. I certainly do, with having that bird's eye view of Mom Nation, right? Like thousands and thousands of women are in these groups. And Darien, you too, you're seeing posts here and there, right, about this topic. We all want strong and meaningful friendships. It's a big deal. It means something. But what does that actually look like? What makes somebody the kind of friend that people trust and enjoy being around and can count on? This topic actually came from Darien, so we'll let her explain why, because she mentioned to me before the show that it's something that comes up in her women's circles quite a bit. So today we're going to unpack the conversations that she's been having with these women and explore what it really means to show up well in our friendships. But before we jump in, if you are finding value in these conversations, we'd love for you to click the follow or the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Like, share, and help us to continue to bring these meaningful conversations to the community, to women that need to hear it, and to our friends as well. Now let's talk about it, Darien. What does it mean to be a really good friend? You had said that this topic came from your women's circle. So what are the women talking about that made you think, oh my gosh, we have got to do an episode on this?
So honestly, I can't believe this is the first time we've talked about it. That's why I was like, have we never talked about this before? Because it's so prevalent. So the reason I even started women's circles at the studio was because a predecessor of mine, somebody who was facilitating at the studio, started doing them. And once she left, I was like, we have to keep this going. It's such a beautiful opportunity. So and it really stems from, I see a ton of posts on social where people are just like, I don't have any friends. I need friends. I don't have any good friends. And I feel like there's a lot of reasons and ways that we can attract those people into our lives. So, and it was also one of the main reasons why I even started women's circles, was because, like, if everybody's feeling this way, why don't we all get together and talk about it? So we've had a few circles. We had like a series of circles specifically around how to be a good friend, how to find friends, how to maintain relationships, how to set boundaries. And then if a relationship is kind of headed south, being able to handle that as well. So you've got different stages of friendships. You go from, hey, I'm looking for friends. So how do you find them? Then you go into, okay, now I have this friendship. How do I maintain it? How do I be that good friend? And then again, if the friendship isn't working out, how do you, graciously end that friendship? Because I feel like we're in this culture of, just deleting and blocking instead of people having a conversation anymore. And it's just, it
Yes.
seems really unnecessary.
Totally agree. Like let's communicate about it, because I don't know about you, but oftentimes, and I try not to do this, but oftentimes when I assume something, when I assume what somebody is thinking or feeling or their reasons for doing a particular thing, I'm not right.
I mean, we can sit here and spin our wheels all day about what somebody else might be thinking, but you don't know.
Right. And you don't know what's going on in their life that may have caused, whatever incident that is kind of, sticking in your craw a bit. And this is something that I want to talk about. I want to go all the way back to the beginning, like, hey, where do you find friends, and kind of start there. But I also do really want to lean into this communication piece, because that is, I also see a lot of those posts too. Like, hey, my friend didn't respond to me, or so-and-so did XYZ and I'm super upset. So I'm just going to, like you said, block and delete, rather than confront and have a calm and meaningful conversation. I had a friend on one of my other podcasts the other day, and she said something that was really eye-opening. And she said, most of the time we communicate to be understood rather than communicate to understand.
So true.
I get the chills all up and down my spine right now just saying that, because, yeah, like how many times do you find yourself throughout the day communicating so that somebody else understands you, but have you taken that opportunity or that time to reciprocate?
I mean, it's something that I genuinely focus on in my career, in my relationships, in my friendships. I even, I notice it with my daughter a lot of times, even where I feel like I'm talking at her, I'm telling her, but I really do take the time to. This is something I've been working on for a long time. It doesn't just come naturally to
Right.
stop, listen, focus. I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, just as like focusing in, um, and little things that you could do to be receptive in a relationship and a conversation. So yeah, it takes practice.
It sure does, because I feel like we've kind of been conditioned to listen to respond, not to listen to understand. Like your brain is super fantastic, guys. It's going to respond. You don't worry about like pre-preparing that response, right? It's really important to be engaged in the moment and actually be listening to the person that you're speaking with to understand versus to prepare your response. Do you see that a lot? Do you feel that? Do you do that?
So I've noticed just in different interactions with people, again, whether it's in my professional life, it seems to be more in my professional life because I've really, um, all of the friends that I do have. I mean, I meet somebody for a coffee or lunch or something, a girlfriend, at least once a week, sometimes multiple times a week, because that's what really fills my cup is that those conversations, those relationships. But I do find a lot in my professional life where I don't have necessarily the ability to pick and choose who I interact with. But yeah, that's a lot of times the case is nobody's listening to understand. Everybody's listening to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. When you were talking with your women's circle, what were some ideas that came up as far as, hey, we're adults now. It's a little bit more difficult than when we were kids, right? We went to school or we had play dates or we had all these opportunities to meet other people, our age or other people that had the same likes that we have, some commonalities there. But as adults, it gets harder, doesn't it?
It 100% gets harder. So some of the things again, find your people. So we've talked about this before, like join a Facebook group, start there. I mean, there's a Facebook group for anything. So
Uh-huh.
find your people. If you're into knitting, if you're into cats, if you're into painting, if you're into clubbing, like whatever the case may be, go find your group and start finding your people and then start engaging in some of their activities. So one of the things that I've heard a lot is a lot of these groups, people plan things and nobody shows up. That
Yeah,
sucks.
that
The
does.
other thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be the masses, right? Maybe you see somebody commenting on something and you're like, "Ooh, I like her vibe." Go
Mm-hmm.
send her a DM and just say, "Hey, it looks like we're both interested in blah 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 and we're looking for friends. Should we hang out sometime?" Right? So it doesn't necessarily, especially if you're kind of an introvert and you're not big on huge groups, because that can be really intimidating. And that was the other thing I found about women's circles is a lot of people would tell, I mean, almost every single time somebody new came to women's circle, they would say, "I almost talked myself out of this
Yeah.
because I was so nervous about showing up in this group." Like you think you're walking into a lion's den. So decide how you want to engage. Decide if you think, you'd rather go into a group, into one of their events, or maybe you just want to one-on-one with somebody. So it's pretty easy nowadays to engage somebody, especially in one of these Facebook groups or somebody who has similar interests. I mean, you could go on Instagram and I mean, I'm friends with girls who are like into roller skating, and I'm like, "Ooh, we should go roller skating sometime," right? So just different things like that where you can engage somebody and just start by finding your people.
Totally agree. Social media definitely makes that a little bit easier, especially for that like category type thing, right? Like you said, if I'm into horses or if I'm into playing guitar or whatever it is, there's a group for it. You'll be able to find that topic on social somewhere, somehow. What about, so the women that said, hey, I almost talked myself out of it, what advice do you have for them in terms of some tools that they could have for when they get to said event that they can kind of break the ice with others and get into conversation and get connected with others? Because I find even me, I seem really outgoing, right? But even me, I find that can be difficult sometime. And I'm sure that others feel the same way.
I mean, I would say first things first, if you're walking into an event, is find your host or hostess,
Yeah.
and start there. And then maybe ask them to start introducing you to people. Like, I can talk to anyone. That is a very unique attribute. There's not very many people who will walk into a room and just start talking to people. It's very few and far between. So I know that that about me is very unique. So if it, and that's okay. So if you're somebody, if you're like the majority of people and you don't feel comfortable walking into a room full of people, go find your host or hostess. Start there. Go introduce yourself. Hey, thank you so much for putting this event together. I'm so happy to be here. Where's the wine or whatever? Where's the food? Or hey, or just start chatting with them. Maybe you can introduce me to some of the other people here so that they can help you break the ice. In women's circles, the way that it's structured is you come in, you sit on a mat, you grab an oracle card, and next thing you know, somebody's sitting next to you, and then somebody's sitting on the other side of you, and then somebody's sitting in front of you. So it's very easy to start a conversation. Like you could just sit, you're sitting right next to somebody, so the conversation could be like, hey, this is my first time, have you been here before? And she's saying, oh, this is my 10th time, you're gonna love it, right? And maybe even including people in the events as a hostess to say, hey, can you just, so say, Katie, like you said, you're not necessarily going to jump in every conversation. So maybe asking a friend to help you, like, introduce people and keep the conversation flowing.
I love that. And I love the tip to find your host or your hostess, because obviously, like I would imagine that they're focused on wanting all of their guests to connect and be comfortable and have a good time, right? And get some value out of it. So that's definitely most likely a goal of theirs. I'm sure it was a goal of yours, in your last women's circle. What about the one thing that we all have to think about, unfortunately, and the aspect of safety? What are some things that you could suggest that we as women can and should do as we are exploring reaching out to, let's face it, strangers, and still being safe and responsible for our safety?
Sure. So, I mean, especially when it comes to Facebook groups and events, looking at maybe past events. So if you can see past events, things they've done before. There, the events disappear in the events page, but you could still see them in the feed. So
Right.
maybe even reaching out to, again, the creator of the event and just be like, hey, you know what I mean? Just starting to create a little bit of a relationship. If preferably in a public place, right?
Yeah.
So if you're meeting at a bar or a restaurant, might be a little bit different at somebody's house. But
Right.
like, for example, I live in Eastmark and they have an Eastmark moms group, and they used to do these like themed nights once a month. Granted, I live in Eastmark. I know a lot of the women, so I would definitely feel safe. And I went by myself to a few of them, right? Just walking
Right.
in, something like that. So maybe rely on something that's close to home. Again,
Mhm.
maybe find another friend who has been before, or if you're like, I don't know anything about any of this, again, just reaching out um, to somebody individually, and just kind of forming a relationship before just walking in the door.
Yeah, totally agree. And one thing that I have done in the past is just let my person, whether that be my husband or my
Mhm.
mom or my bestie or my sister, like, hey, I'm going to this thing. This is where I'm going to be. If you don't hear from me by X time, can you check in or whatever it
Sure.
is? You know what I
Smart.
mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for me, like my person can, I share my location on with my phone. So wherever my
Mhm.
phone is, like, and it's usually glued to me, right? So wherever that is, chances are that's where I am too.
Absolutely.
And so
Smart.
I think that that's important, especially these days. Um, when we think about a truly great friend, understanding everybody is different. We all come to the table with different expectations, different life experiences, that kind of thing. So we need to, be aware of that. But when you think of a truly great friend, what qualities stand out the most? Was that a topic of conversation in the circle?
Yeah, absolutely. We did a whole circle about this. So, one of the activities we did was kind of write down your what an ideal friendship looks like for you, right? Get it in your mind what an ideal friendship looks like for you. What does she do for a living? How many kids does she have? Maybe she doesn't have kids. Is she married? Is she divorced? What is she into? What are her interests? And it's not like you have to hit every single topic. It's not like dating, right? You're not like, well, he has to make this much money and anyways. um these are the different things that you want to start thinking about. But more importantly, you have to decide, do you have time for that friendship? So
Mm,
I think this is the piece that people often don't think about is what are you willing to put into a relationship and into a friendship?
yeah.
Do you honestly have time to add this to your plate? And if you don't start going out and seeking new relationships because you're going to end up upset. You're going to end up upsetting somebody else. It's just make sure that you know what time and effort you're going to be able to put into it. So that's the other activity we did. So not only visualizing the type of friend that you want, but visualize the type of friend that you want to be. I think
That's
that's huge.
I think that is huge and very, very powerful and funny little personal stories. So, real quick, when I got divorced many years ago, I wrote a list of what my ideal partner would look right down to his looks. Like I wrote, this is what I would like him to look like. This is what I would like him to do for a living, like you just said, all the things. And it was Matt. It was my current husband, literally. And it was so funny because when we started dating, I had forgotten that I had written in that journal, you know what I mean? And I opened it up one day for whatever reason and I started reading that page and I was like, holy crap, this stuff really works.
Right. And it does. And it really makes a difference. And the other thing we have to take into consideration is like what stage of life you're in. So
Yeah,
this actually came from the Mel Robbins Let Them book,
I love
but
that.
just like knowing what stage of life she's in. So, like if you have little kids and somebody's kids are grown and out of the house, might not be the best fit. You're just not in the same stage of life. If you have little kids and somebody else has little kids, you can get your little kids together and hang out,
Right.
right? Whereas somebody who has kids that are grown or don't require as much attention might have a little bit you might have similar times available that you can hang out. So keep that in mind. And as well as honestly, like proximity. If somebody doesn't live
Mm.
near you, it's so much harder as an adult, right? To schedule time with them. So if
Oh,
you
yeah.
live in Tempe and somebody lives in East Mesa, probably not going to be able to get together as much as you'd like. So just another thing to take into consideration as far as looking for your people.
I totally agree. And if you find yourself with a connection, because there's certain people you just spark with, you just connect with, right? And
Mhm.
maybe you have little kids and hers are grown and out of the house, right? Maybe if you do want to continue building that relationship, maybe that's a good time to communicate and just be like, hey, my time is weird. My calendar's weird. It's kind of based on what I got going on with the kids. I just want you to know that up front because I think I see I don't think I see. I know I see a lot of women that are like, well, she didn't call me back, so I guess forget it. Or, she's never around when I need her, or she's never has time to do anything. And I wonder if those communications happened before
Sure.
that breakdown of the relationship. You know what I mean?
Because to your point, we can just assume. We'll just assume all day long that they just don't have time for you. And like for me, for example, I am busy all day. I work all day, then I go to the gym, then I come home and make dinner, then I spend time with my daughter, and that's like my day every single day.
Yeah.
And it's 8 o'clock by the time I'm going into my room to chill out. And at that time, I don't necessarily want to get into a text conversation, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm done.
You're toast.
I'm
Yeah.
toast. So just knowing that, hey, I might not text you back for a day or two, but I will text you back.
Yeah.
Or unless something's time sensitive, of course. We're supposed to meet for tomorrow for lunch. Yes, I'll be there. But my text might be kind of abrupt
Hmm.
because that's just my life. So just kind of letting people know that up front, I think is huge.
Yeah, I think that's important too, so that we don't build that story in our head that might be completely off track. And then we've just derailed a perfectly fine relationship because we just didn't communicate our needs and our thoughts and feelings. So yeah, I get that. That said, friendships are not always 50-50. It's kind of like
Mhm.
relationships, right? So how do you
Mhm.
know when you're supporting somebody through just a difficult season versus carrying the entire friendship?
So this is this is a really good one. So I'm very fortunate that the friendships that I do have and that I have kept really do feel reciprocal. When we sit down and we have a conversation, it is a conversation. It is not somebody telling me everything that's going on with them and me going, oh yeah, that sucks. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's really important to gauge that. I can, I, s- I love what you said about a difficult season. Maybe they're going through a breakup, or
Hmm.
their dog died, or, and you're there to support them. But if it's like that all the time, where you're not feeling like, hey, I can lean on her when I need her because I'm always there helping her pick up the pieces, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that can be really difficult. And especially in those, one thing I've experienced is just those friendships where they're just talking, 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 talking. So I think one thing I want to stress on how to be a good friend is like checking on that yourself. So checking in with yourself, like, am I checking in with her regularly? Even if it's just one thing that I like to do is just be like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Or sending them a funny meme, or sending them a reel, or remembering important things about them. Like, hey, I know your kiddo is going in for a procedure tomorrow. I just want to tell you I'm thinking about you.
Yep.
Or I know you got that crazy thing at work next week. So call me, let me know if you want to chat after. So I think that is so important in a friendship, is to make sure you're paying attention to what she wants, needs, what's going on with her.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all go through different difficult seasons. I look at some of my friendships as like free therapy sometimes, but it's more in the respect of just being able to spend time in that person's energy is what really fills my cup, not because I'm blabbing on about everything that's going on in my life and
Mm-hmm.
dumping on her. We pay therapists for that. I highly recommend it. um, Instead of, dumping my whole life on her and, okay, see you later. Right.
Yeah.
So that, I think that is a really important part of being a good friend, is paying attention to what is going on with her and checking in with her regularly.
I agree totally. And guys, it is okay to use technology to help you with that. For like, I'll just be real frank. I do. I have a little reminder that pops up that says, hey, check in with so and so if you haven't lately. Do I
Hmm.
typically remember her on my own, or do I typically think of her throughout the day? Of course. But like you, I've got a similar schedule. I work all day long, and then my evening time is reserved to spend a little bit of time with my kiddo so he doesn't forget what I look like.
Hmm.
I think that that's important to have that connection with him. And then by 8-9 o'clock, I'm toast as well. And
Hmm.
I have probably contacted 50 people in that day. So like you said, I'm not really into being back on the phone. I want to put my phone down at that
Yes.
point. But I do feel like it is important for people to know that you are thinking about them. And if you've got to use tech reminders, do it. I don't think there's any shame in that.
I've absolutely done it. If somebody's, the example I used, so and so's kiddos getting their wisdom teeth out on Friday, I put that on my calendar,
Yep.
and then I'll check in with her that morning and just be like, hey, good luck today. Or, I mean, I think it's, if if having those friendships is important enough to you, then doing those things to foster that relationship should be as important to you.
Yeah, I agree totally. So that was one thing that you had mentioned that you would like people to kind of walk away from the episode thinking about or understanding. Are there any other habits that would make somebody a better friend or a more connected friend that you can think of that maybe came up during Women's Circle?
I think those were probably the biggest things is, having things in common,
Mhm.
those particular stages of life, making sure that the relationship is reciprocal, making sure you're getting what you need from it, as well as like, is it a good fit for you? Like, so, I went to happy hour with a friend this week, and I told her like, how I tell her like how much I value our friendship. So voicing that as well. And the reason why I value our friendship because it's easy.
Mhm.
We're both very easy people, low drama. So that's another thing is just kind of gauging their drama factor. Some people like drama, and you do you. Like if you're into drama, find the girls that are into drama too. And what I mean by that is like maybe you like to uh get really worked up about things where I just don't.
Yeah.
So that friendship for me is so valuable is because we're just both that even keel. And then so we talked about uh it- those few things, and then lastly is just 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 trying to go above and beyond for them,
Mhm.
but also having boundaries and understanding each other's boundaries and understanding each other's family dynamics, and lastly, like if you don't hear from them for a couple weeks and you're like, well, I haven't heard from her, maybe she's going through something.
Yeah.
So maybe it's okay to just reach out to her anyway and just say, hey, I haven't heard from you, how you doing, everything okay,
Mhm.
um because there could be something major going on with her, and maybe she could really use somebody to extend that olive branch.
I agree totally. Let's try not to assume things where I think again, and everybody's different, so you possibly have some different life experience here, but I feel like I was conditioned to assume things as a child. Did you feel that at all?
Yeah,
Feel like that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we all have.
Hmm.
I mean, truly, I think it's human nature too, is to try to assume and think we know what's going on with somebody.
Yeah, yeah, but you really don't. Even if they tell you, it's, I think, really hard to truly understand somebody else's shoes. So be careful not to assume, guys. Gets me in a lot of trouble when I do it. So
Yeah, and what's that saying? It's like, who's going through something right now? Everybody. So be
yeah,
kind.
yeah, yeah. I love that saying. Oh, awesome. Awesome topic. Awesome episode. Thank you so much, Darien, as always, for bringing your expertise to the table here. Guys, if you want to check out any of our previous episodes, hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at Mom Nation USA. Scroll down just a little ways. You will see the bright green playlist. That is her inner circle and all of our previous episodes, or on your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for Mom Nation Talk Radio. There you will find us. Like, download, follow, all the things, and you will never miss a beat. We will see you next time, Darien. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What if success didn't have to feel so exhausting? What if you could achieve more without burning out? Meet Darien Pruitt, a wellness guide and women's empowerment coach for high-achieving women who are ready to release burnout and realign with who they truly are through yoga, breathwork, and intentional movement, sound bath meditation, women's circles and community workshops, Reiki energy healing, and holistic mindfulness practices. Darien helps you reset your nervous system, reconnect with your body, and reclaim your inner power. It's time to stop running on empty, realign, restore, rise. Contact Darien Pruitt today and begin your transformation.